The last thing Marima remembered was water filling her lungs as she stopped fighting to stay alive. Marima had always hated her life, not because she was ungrateful, but because it just never got better. Her parents were poor, really poor. They lived in a tiny wooden house by the coast in Sierra Leone. Her father fixed nets at the dock. Her mother sold dried fish in the market. Most nights, they ate plain cassava. No meat, no hope. She never blamed them out loud, but deep down, she did. She watched other girls her age wearing nice clothes, going to good schools, smiling like they had no idea how hard life could get. Mariama just wanted to be one of them. She didn't want to fetch water every morning. She didn't want to wash her clothes in the river. She didn't want this life. Then the boat accident happened. They were moving to a new town by sea. Her uncle had promised work and a better future. Marima didn't believe it, but her parents hoped again like they always did. A storm hit halfway through the trip. The boat was old, so it cracked. It was chaos. Her parents tried to hold her above water, but then everything went black. When she woke up, it was quiet. No sea, no boat, no pain. She was lying in a soft bed, in a room with a ceiling fan, and colorful posters on the wall. Her hands were clean. There was no smell of fish or salt water. She panicked. Where was she? She ran to the mirror. She looked the same, but not quite. Her face was glowing. She had on soft pajamas. She opened the door and walked into a living room. A man and woman were eating breakfast. They looked up and smiled. "Good morning, sweetheart," the woman said, standing up to hug her. It was her mother, but younger, brighter, and not tired. The man kissed her forehead. "Ready for school, Marima?" "School?" Marima wondered. She walked outside. There was no sand, no broken houses. It was a neighborhood, paved roads, and big houses. She was confused. Was this heaven? Was she dreaming? What will you do if you woke up one day and you find yourself in life totally different from the one you have always known? Marima could feel something was wrong. Everything around her looked perfect, but nothing felt familiar. The house was clean and full of color. The food was rich and warm. The clothes were soft. But her heart was heavy. She couldn't connect to the world she woke up in. She didn't know how to act. She didn't know how to feel. At school, the faces were strange. People smiled at her like they had always known her, but she had never seen any of them before. She couldn't follow the lessons. She didn't know her own handwriting. Even the way she sat felt out of place. She began to panic but kept it inside. Everything that once felt far and impossible was now around her, and she didn't understand any of it. Her parents noticed that something was off. She didn't talk much. She stared at objects like they were foreign. She flinched at running water. She didn't respond when called by name. Her silence became worrying. They took her to a hospital, hoping for answers. The doctors ran tests and asked her questions she couldn't answer. They assumed it was memory loss, maybe from trauma. No one imagined she wasn't the girl they thought she was. At home, Marima stayed quiet. She watched everything closely, trying to figure out how to survive. She didn't want to mess it up. This world was calm. The lights always worked. The fridge was always full, but it felt like wearing clothes that didn't belong to her. Everything fit, but nothing felt right. She missed her old life, even with all its pain. She missed the smell of sea salt, the sound of market women, the way her mother used to sing while cooking. She had once hated all of that, but now she wanted it back. At the same time, far away, another Mariama was waking up on the muddy edge of a river. Her body was wet and shaking. Her vision was blurry. People gathered around her, shocked to see her alive. She couldn't understand why they were looking at her like that. She had gone to bed in a comfortable home, safe and warm. Now she was on the ground, surrounded by strangers and smoke from cooking fires. The village looked broken. The houses were worn. Someone took her to a wooden house. Two tired-looking adults rushed toward her and hugged her tight. They were calling her their daughter. But she had never seen them before. She tried to understand what had happened. The last thing she remembered was finishing her school project. She had plans the next day. She was going to meet her friends at the mall. Now, She was barefoot in a house with no lights and a leaking roof. The people around her thought she had hit her head. They gave her food she couldn't eat. They told her stories she didn't remember. She stayed quiet, confused, and scared. She didn't know how to live in this world. She didn't know how to sweep with a broom made of sticks or how to fetch water from a well. Her soft hands blistered. Her voice faded. The two girls had switched places. Each one now lived the life of the other. One had escaped suffering only to find herself empty inside. The other had fallen into hardship without knowing how to survive it. The world did not notice the change, but both girls knew something had gone deeply wrong. They weren't dreaming. They weren't pretending. They were stuck. And slowly, each one began to feel the weight of a life they never chose. Imagine being trapped in a life that is not yours. Time moved, but nothing felt normal. Each Marima still lived in the body of the other, trapped in lives they couldn't control. One girl carried wealth but felt empty. The other carried struggle but had no idea how to survive it. Days passed, then weeks. They learned to pretend, but inside, the confusion grew heavier. Then one night, they both had the same dream. It didn't feel like sleep. It felt real. They stood in a wide open space with no ground, no sky, no air, just silence and each other. They saw themselves, same face, same eyes, but different pain. The sight shook them. The poor Marima looked at the rich one and felt shame. The rich Marima looked at the poor one and felt guilt. They didn't speak, but they understood everything. They saw each other's memories, the heavy nets, the leaking roof, the clean bed sheets, the shiny shoes, the empty heart. They had lived two halves of the same world, one with too little and the other with too much. And now they finally saw what the other had carried. The real Marima, who lived in the coast as a poor girl, was the first to decide. She had been given a chance to live a better life, but it never felt like hers. The food had taste but no meaning. The house had comfort but no soul. She missed her mother's voice. She missed her father's old hands. She missed her village. She missed the pain that shaped her. The rich Marima had been tested. The heat, the hunger, the noise. She had cried alone every night. But for the first time in her life, she had seen strength. She had seen love that pushed through death and fire. She had felt what it meant to struggle and still smile. She wanted her home back too, not because it was perfect, but because now she finally understood it. In the dream, they walked toward each other and touched hands. Lights wrapped around them. The world split again. The poor Marima woke up first. The bed was gone. The silence returned. She was floating in water. The same sea that had swallowed her before. She kicked and screamed. She didn't want to die again. But this time, she didn't sink. She washed up on the same shore, coughing and shaking. People saw her and cried out. Her parents were there. They ran to her and were confused on why she was there again, but were just happy to see her. The rich Mariama woke up on her soft bed. The sun was coming through the window. Her mother knocked gently before coming in. She hugged her, and this time, Mariama hugged her back tighter. She felt the warmth. She saw the love. She was home too. From that day, things changed. Neither of the girls spoke of what happened. They knew no one would believe them. But they lived differently. The poor Marima no longer looked at her parents with anger. She saw their efforts. She joined her mother in the market. She helped her father with nets. The hard life didn't scare her anymore, but worked towards making it better with the people she loved the most. The rich Marima stopped chasing things that didn't matter. She helped people more. She listened to others. She never again looked down on those with less. She had felt their pain, and now she carried their strength inside her. Two girls, two lives, one story. They had crossed into each other's world and returned not richer or poorer, but wiser. They had hated their lives once, but now they saw the value in them. And no matter what came next, they would never forget the strange, impossible journey that taught them the truth. That sometimes the life you want is hiding inside the life you already have.